Well, welcome back to As Told by You. Today we have got John Loveday on, and John and I got to know each other through the Whitmore School not many years ago, but probably 2018, 19. We worked with the Whitmore School a little bit. Brian knows John through
Sports.
Little League, I guess, right? So it just goes to show that you are never that far separated from almost anybody in Columbia. You know, it's just
Very
one
true.
of those towns. So John, my history with you has been in the education space, but primarily not the sort of official school district education space. Talk to me about what brought you to this sort of charter school, online school space, and why is that interesting to you?
Yeah. Well, that's a long story. I'm glad we have some time here today. I think it really it dates back to even before I was professional, before I was in education. I think it's just a part of my story. So I guess I'll start there if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a small town in rural Aiken County called Beach Island, where there's no beach nor an island. Anyone who's from the CSRA would know where Beach Island is. But
Indeed.
quite literally on a dirt road, a little small town, two wonderful parents. But education wasn't something that my immediate family ever achieved at a high level. My father didn't finish high school. My mom didn't finish college. But my dad was a Vietnam vet. He was a drill sergeant here locally at Fort Jackson. And he instilled in me the discipline of the military life. And even though I never served directly, I remember waking up or being woken up on Saturdays and Sundays at 5 a.m., wondering, why am I being woken up on a weekend? And my dad would always say, well, boy, you're burning daylight. We got to get outside. And there's always something to do. But really, I think everyone has an inflection point in their lives, something that happens that changes their lives forever. And for me, that was February 23rd of 1998. And that was the day that my older brother tragically passed away. He was a junior in high school, and I was an eighth grader. And so he and his best friend would carpool to school. And they unfortunately got in a car accident, and both tragically died. And if I were a year older, I'd have been in that car.
Wow.
And so from a very early age, I was 13 years old, going on 14, I became very self-aware of my own mortality. And I knew at that young age that life doesn't last forever and that our time is truly limited. And so from an early age, I was really focused on making sure that I make the most of every day, that I set goals, that I work hard, that I achieve something that I could be proud of. And I'll be honest, as a young person, I think that I cope with a lot of my my fears, my loss, my grief through setting goals. I was hyper-focused in school, wanted to be a first-generation college graduate, and I did that at USC here locally in Columbia. And it took me a long time to, I think, really learn to love the thing that I wish never happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times when people have tough things happen in life, they want to feel like a victim, and sometimes that's a natural human emotion to want to feel like a victim. But I learned to love that thing that I wish never happened to me because it changed my perspective. It made me humble, I hope. It made me realize those things can develop you. They can challenge you. They can show you that, again, life is short. And so I think that was really my path to my career and where I am today, is all those things that happened in the past. And so when I came to USC, I had no idea what I wanted to study. Again, first kid to go to college in my family. And I've always loved history. And so I ended up majoring in history, ended up being a history teacher, mainly taught U.S. history. Really loved that. But I would say maybe year one, year two, I was already pretty burnt out. Teaching's a very, very challenging job. And sadly, a lot of teachers don't get the support they need. And I was one of those teachers. And so I remember going to my wife, Amanda, and saying, hey, look, I'm not a quitter, but this is really, really challenging. And what should I do? And her advice was, let's give it one more year. So I did that. After another year, it wasn't much better. And I said, okay, well, what do I do now? Do I go back to school? Do I get a business degree? Do I change careers? What do you think? And so we talked about it. And just as life happens, a door opened. At the time, Amanda was working at South Carolina ETV. And they were covering a story about virtual schools. This was some 15, 16 years ago. It's been a while. And she came home and she's like, hey, look, there's this really cool concept that's really, new and innovative that's opening in South Carolina. Maybe you should explore this. And so I have to always give Amanda credit because she brought this opportunity to the door. That's the thing with opportunities. You have to walk through the door, right? And so I remember transitioning from a traditional classroom brick and mortar teacher to teaching online. And I remember the first thing that we both were thinking is, will this last for more than a semester? Will it last a year? This was, way before Zoom or way before COVID. Virtual education was still very new, especially in South Carolina. But I took that leap of faith and taught numerous years online, really loved it. Got to teach kids from all 46 counties in South Carolina. And from there, I went back to USC, wanted to get my degree so I can be a principal. And that's where I got to SC Whitmore. Wow. So that was a long explanation to your question.
No, that's great. I love it.
A wonderful story.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
It was a journey.
And who knew that everybody would be doing virtual school in just a few years after you started teaching virtually, Yeah. My kids had to do virtual school. It was like, now my son found a way of skirting it. He paid someone to do his virtual schooling for him, which, is a new thing.
Yep.
Kids 30 years ago couldn't have paid someone to go to school for them, but it happens, right? So I always loved working with the Whitmore School because I love the stories of the kids. It would tell us all kinds of things that would bring them to virtual school. Talk about why kids would choose this sort of alternative education like this versus going to the traditional district school.
Yeah, I think that there's a plethora of reasons why kids' life circumstances, health issues, financial issues in the home. Sometimes you have teenage mothers who otherwise would have no opportunity to drop out of school, back in other generations. And so South Carolina Whitmore was one of the oldest virtual schools in South Carolina. And the model was very unique. It was to be a dropout prevention program, to find kids across the state that were struggling for a variety of reasons and give them an option versus dropping out. Mm-hmm. And so quite literally in those early years, we would drive from county to county in South Carolina. We would meet with school counselors and we said, hey, do you have kids that are on this track? Doesn't matter why. We're not blaming any school. We're not blaming you. We're not saying that you're not doing a good job. We're simply saying there's an option now. And so over the past almost 15 years, SC Whitmore has graduated thousands of kids across South Carolina. And I was there for almost a decade. It was a fantastic decade for me. The school is still there, still running, still doing some great things. But that was the neat part about it is no matter the reason, no matter the challenge, these kids now can access this education. The other part about this really neat is that it's mastery based. Mm-hmm. And what that really means for the non-educators in the room is it's self-paced. So it's not like biology class is Tuesday at 10 a.m. Biology is whatever you want it to be. Mm-hmm. There's live learning. There's also time that largely you're doing it on your own pace. And so that means that kids can accelerate and graduate early. So we have kids that can graduate high school in 2 years or 3 years. Mm-hmm. Kids that were bored in school. And boredom is just as bad as anything. That's when kids either sleep or they act out, or they're going to entertain themselves in some way. And so we would have kids that graduate high school in 2 years, some in 3, of course, most in the traditional 4. We have kids that would take sometimes 5 or 6.
Right.
Because they'd come to us as a 17-year-old with 2 credits. And so we knew it'd take longer to graduate them. But that's why we're there in the first place.
Well, and I remember talking to kids that had, one kid had their own business. They wanted to take time to work on their business, so they didn't want to have to go to school all day. I ran into kids that they were in some kind of like basketball league that they wanted to really dedicate their time to, or music that they wanted to dedicate their time to. So I saw a big variety of kids there. It was really eye-opening for me, especially as a father of a kind of troubled high school student at the time. I thought to myself, this is probably a good option for him, And
what's the accreditation process for that? Like, does it have to go through the state legislature? How does the Whitmore School or a school like it get the accreditation to say, yes, now you've done this curriculum and you can have a degree?
Yeah, so that's really how I got into the charter school space. It was sort of an indirect path. And so in those early years at the charter school, if you were serving kids from all 46 counties, you could not theoretically be authorized by a local school district, like Richland 1, for example, because you can't serve kids in Myrtle Beach if you're here in Columbia, right? And so the charter route was really the only way that you could be a virtual school and serve all 46 counties all across South Carolina. And so when I came to the virtual school space, it was a charter school. But really what drew me to the virtual school sector, sort of the charter school sector, was the virtual school aspect of it. And so because it's a state accredited public charter school, that's how the school can operate and kids can get a diploma and so forth. My favorite story about SC Whitmore was, I think it was maybe my 4th or 5th year there. Our valedictorian got a full ride to USC, graduated a year early, just an amazing kid, did all these wonderful things. And our salutatorian was a 20-year-old mother who had a 1-year-old, graduated 2 years late. And because of those circumstances, again, if this were prior generations, she would have dropped out of high school, most likely, lived in poverty her entire life, and had no options. And because of innovators and the folks at SC Whitmore, that's where the magic happened. I don't feel like it wasn't me. It was the teachers there. It was the school counselors, just truly amazing people that I really had the pleasure of working with. But that was such a cool thing to see at that ceremony, that quite literally, number 1, number 2, completely different backgrounds, different paths in life, but now they're both high school graduates and they now have options. That was a powerful thing that I'll never ever forget.
And succeeded in their own way.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So you're now at tutelage. Talk about what that is and how did you get there?
Yeah, we talked earlier about just inflection points. And so I was at SC Whitmore, again, for almost 10 years. And I got to a point where I had luckily was able to recruit and retain talent. And we had an amazing team there, from administration to teachers, school counselors. And to be completely honest, I got to a point where I felt like I was coasting because we had built out SOPs. We had built out expectations. The culture was strong. And I don't want to say it ran itself, but it did not take the effort that I had given in those early years to build it to where it was. And I know for a lot of people, that's where they want to be in life. They want to get to a place where it's easy and they coast and life is good. But again, that's never been in my DNA. And so again, I had that reflection point. And again, going back to Amanda, we had a conversation about, what do I do? Do I go back to USC and get a PhD and maybe go the superintendent route? Because that's where most educators see your growth trajectory. And the more I thought about it, I've always sort of been that fish that swim upstream and always kind of proud of doing things my way. Even though it's not always the right way, I'll try to do my best where I can. But I decided that taking that traditional route wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, okay, well, let's just go out and let's get other experiences. Let's learn and grow. And what's meant to be long-term will show itself, right? And so I left being a practitioner educator, and I worked for 2 years in the marketing and branding sector.
At Rhodes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Supported schools all across the country, and really learned from really great people. Some folks that worked at Procter & Gamble in Cincinnati, some really incredible graphic designers here in Columbia, some incredible videographers and photographers, and, just really was a sponge and like soaked it all up. And I was eventually approached by Toothless School Solutions, which is a company that is now in its 6th year of operation. And it was founded by an incredible guy that you guys should meet one day. His name is Tony Helton. And Tony is from the big city that he would say as Forest City, North Carolina. It's just past the South Carolina state line, close to Spartanburg. And in Forest City, North Carolina, Tony had this idea that he wanted to help open a charter school in South Carolina. Prior, he had worked at open charter schools across the country. By the way, Tony's also a USC grad, so Columbia is very near and dear to Tony. But he opened this initial school in Gaffney. It's called Cherokee Charter Academy, and they're in their 6th year of operation now. And really, Tony's mission was to open charter schools in rural areas, areas that had historically low-performing schools, and to not throw stones, to not bash the traditional school district or to point fingers to elected officials, to simply open a great school, have incredibly high academic standards. We have sports at our schools, but they're not a major focus. It is academics, 1, 2, and 3. And so Tony brought me on 3 years ago now to help grow what we're doing. And we now have 5 schools across the state.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was noticing and just of course because this is what I notice, that there's a lot of use of videos to help to explain, what the purpose of the school is. Talk about that a little bit, because that's something I feel like traditional schools do not do well.
Yeah.
They do not tell their story very well.
That's
and
right.
So talk about that as far as with those charter schools and why the use of video quite so much.
Yeah.
And they're all very well viewed, by the way.
Yeah.
Thousands of views on each of these videos about a school, which is interesting.
Yeah. We know the power of telling a story. I think that's something that a lot of times in rural areas, there's not always as much hope or optimism in the rural areas. I think a lot of times you get stuck in this cycle. And being a kid that grew up in a rural area, as well as my business partner, Tony, is really personal to us. And we know the mentality of small towns, and we know how to navigate through those areas to not insult, to not belittle, but to challenge. And I think to show folks that there's a big world out there, and pretty much your trajectory is going to be based on education, right?
Yeah.
If you get a good education, you have so many opportunities. If you don't, you're not going to have a whole lot. And so we think it's important to have really high quality videography, photography, to make sure that our brand is really, really tight and consistent. I think folks need to feel proud of where they go to school. They need to know that our standards are really, really high. And I think it's just sort of the saying, if you look good, you feel good, right? I think it's really, really important. And really the foundation, I know some folks out there who are listening to this may not necessarily support charter schools, or sometimes some folks don't really understand what charter schools are. So I want to take a second just to hit on that if I could, because at the end of the day, the success of our country, if you want to boil down to one thing, is competition. Best idea wins, right? It's capitalism. It's free market capitalism. And when you don't have competition, you will see stagnation. There's little motivation to work hard and to achieve. And so in these rural areas, families have had generally one choice, right? there's sometimes there's a private school in the area that's not always accessible to everybody. And so if you have one school, one choice, then the foundation of growth and development and trying to innovate, it's just not always there. And so going back to our founding school in Gaffney, again, they're in their 6th year of operation. And in their 3rd year, only 3 years, they were the top performing school in all of Cherokee County. 3 years. That's it. Just 3 years. And, there's the old saying that rising tide lifts all boats. What we have found is since that 3rd year, and you can go back and find all these videos, we bragged quite loudly that we were the best school in the county. And the school's enrollment grew, and the talent that we were able to recruit in Gaffney grew. We have folks that travel over from Greenville, from Spartanburg, from parts of North Carolina, and they work at this school now. And so, but what happened in years 4, 5, and then now this year in 6 is fascinating. The local schools in that area all started to approve. Everyone. And the school report cards just came out for this past year on Monday of this week. And Cherokee Charter is now is still the top performing middle school, and they're the number 2 elementary, just behind the other school down the road. But that's what we've created in Gaffney is competition.
Yeah.
And believe it, it's our goal next year to beat those good folks down the road and be the best school, elementary school and the middle school. But to me, that's the powerful thing about charter schools. And it's unfortunate that some folks try to make charter schools a partisan thing. Mm-hmm. And I'll say that and say it loudly. It's a mistake, because anytime anything becomes partisan, you split the pie in half.
Yeah.
And folks will have their mind made up one way or the other, and people stop listening, right? And if nothing else, I'm here to tell you, charter schools are creating an environment of competition because parents have a choice. If this school's not serving your needs for whatever reason, you can go to this school or that school. And you can do it without a tuition, without cost. It's a public entity. And it's a powerful thing.
Well, so for those people that don't really understand the difference, like what is my child going to experience at a charter school versus a traditional school? What would you say the primary difference is between a traditional district school and a charter school?
Yeah, so every charter school is different by design, right? So some charter schools have a language immersion focus. Some have a STEM focus. Our schools are considered a classical education, right? So it's more of, we want our kids to pick up a physical book. Technology's great. Technology's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But we make sure our kids have PE every single day, not just one day a week. Most schools in school districts across South Carolina give PE 1 day a week now,
right.
1 day, which is insane. Our kids have art and or music every single day. We don't give homework. We have a policy at our school, no homework, because there is almost no evidence that homework helps.
Right.
None. All homework does is it creates resentment. Kids start to hate school because they're like, man, I've been at school for 8 hours. I got to go back home and do more. And it assumes the kids will go home and do it the right way. Or 3, it assumes that there are parents in the home that are able to help and willing to help, right?
Or that the parents are doing it.
Correct.
Which is also bad.
You
You don't want that. Now, my daughter's 15. She's in pre-calculus.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
My answer is good luck. I hope everything works out.
That's right.
I cannot help you in the least.
I think about Joey Coy, Joe Coy. Have you seen his stand-up? He's like, I got a call from his kid goes to some private school in LA, and he's like, I got a call from the school, and apparently we are failing 7th grade math.
Exactly. And look, 7th grade math, algebra 1, I can help a little bit, right? I can't do anything with pre-calculus, right? And so I guess that is a very interesting kind of element to it. I love the idea of no homework, obviously, as someone who hated homework.
We just
but
simply say, look, you need 8 hours to be a student, 8 hours to be a kid. Go home, play baseball, volunteer in your community, and get 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And rinse and repeat. And sometimes those simple truths get lost somewhere, right? And it has been a huge thing for us. Last thing that we do that's unique to public schools is we require uniforms.
okay.
They are not expensive, and if any child comes to our school that frankly can't afford it, if they're free reduced lunch or whatever it may be, that's not a barrier for us.
Yeah.
We'll provide them. But what that does is it gets our kids in the mindset that I'm going to work.
Yeah.
I'm going to work today. I'm not going to go play. I'm going to work. I have things to do to accomplish academically.
It's not a fashion show.
It's not. That's right. It decreases distraction. It decreases bullying. And so it is a powerful tool. And for someone that has two boys and they were at a traditional public school and now they're at an independent school this year, but this is the first time they've experienced uniforms, and they absolutely love it.
Yeah.
They love it. And it may have taken 1 or 2 days, but after they got in that routine, they absolutely love it. And as soon as they come home from school, they change, and those are their play clothes, as they call them.
Yeah.
And now mentally, they're playing.
Right.
But they understand that when they're at school, they're there to work.
Well, and I think it can get extreme too, as we encourage kids to express themselves or do whatever is comfortable for them.
Yeah.
A friend of mine calls this the pajama generation, where you have to go, pajamas aren't appropriate for this particular environment, so you have to wear slacks and a button-down shirt. Or how many times my son and his girlfriend come over to the house and they're wearing pajamas, and I'm like, I don't understand this.
Yeah.
This is where you start to feel old. You go, my dad would have had a fit if I went out of the house in pajamas.
No doubt.
And
one of my favorite dadisms is he would say, never forget the power of making your bed in the morning. Mm-hmm. And he's right.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
It gets you in the mindset of, I'm going to do the little things right today.
Yeah. Well, I think that's very cool. It has, I think it's interesting. It sounds like a private school. So
that's my big question is, where is the funding coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're paying teachers, you have a physical location that the kids are going to, but it's open to anybody.
So there's no cost to the students,
and there's
right?
no cost to the students, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So where does the funding come from?
From you.
From taxes.
It's a state funded school.
Nice.
So the way charter schools work is the state dollars, the state and federal dollars, follows the kid from if they're at their traditional public school they're zoned for, and if they go to a charter school, the state and federal funds follow them. But the local funds do not.
Okay.
So of course the amount of local funds can vary greatly, right? So if you're in a more wealthy county like Lexington County or Richland County or Greenville County or Charleston County, there's a lot of local funds, right? They can make up maybe 30% or so of a school's total funding model. If you're in a more rural and lower income county, then it can be 10%, 5%. It can be a really small amount because there's not a lot of tax base, of course, in those areas. And so, but that's also part of the origin of where we see these challenges in these rural areas, the lack of local tax base. If you go back even to the 20th century, 19th century, even before that, that's where the inequality started. Of course, was lack of local funds, which means those schools are going to get significantly less. And of course, facilities don't teach kids, but facilities creates pride. Mm-hmm. Facilities recruit talent. They are important to some degree. And of course, over time, that talent pool dwindles. One of our schools that we opened this year is down the I-95 course, locally known as a corridor of shame, is in Walterboro. And it's a school called Libertas Academy Colleton, first charter school in Colleton County. And to say that has been a challenging thing is an understatement. But that school is open. They're in a temporary facility for year one. We're building a building, and it'll be open. The permanent building will be open for second year. And that is such a rewarding experience. But I think it all boils down to just the focus and doing more with less. And because we don't get local funds, that's okay. We try to be efficient, and we try to, again, do more with less. And that's what tutelage really focuses on, is providing these schools with comprehensive list of services so that they can focus on academics and we can focus on all the other distractions that come up.
Yeah. Well, and talk about facilities. The elementary school that I went to, 6th and 7th grade, was Mount Zion Elementary in Fairfield County.
Yep.
And it was built in the Revolutionary War, like 1780 or somewhere around in there, as a hospital, and was serving as an elementary school in the 1980s. And it was falling apart. And there were a lot of things that didn't work, like heating and air was spotty. We had to have school outside for a period, so they took asbestos out of the building. Like, they realized that asbestos was in it in 1980, whatever. And it was disruptive to my education.
Yeah.
The facility was disruptive to my education, certainly. Yeah. Now, not to say that there were good teachers in the 80s in Fairfield County. That could be argued, whatever it is. I'm sure they tried hard. But the area I was born in affected my education 100%. Yeah. If I had been going to school in Columbia, I wouldn't have had those particular challenges, you know. And
it really boils down to, I think, if you had to say one thing, it's leadership.
Yeah.
At our schools, our schools are, again, located in Gaffney, Boylan Springs, Greenwood, Lancaster County, and Colleton County.
Right.
And we have 9 more schools in the pipeline, so we'll have 14 in the next maybe 4 to 5 years. And, we put huge amounts of energy towards recruiting our school director. Mm-hmm. And we purposely didn't call this person a principal. They are a school director. Mm-hmm. Because principal a lot of times sounds just a very academic, focused position. Yeah. And this person is more of a school CEO. Right. We actually considered that title too. This person has to be an innovator.
Yeah.
They have to go into an area, be positive. We have a very strict rule. We don't cast stones here. But we have to challenge the status quo. And that's one of our biggest challenges. But if we find the right leader, they set the culture, and eventually talent comes back. Right now in our school in Colleton County, we hear so many stories of really great teachers, talented teachers that commute from Walterboro to Somerville, from Walterboro to North Charleston, from Walterboro down even sometimes to Beaufort or Hilton Head.
Right.
Because they want something different. Mm-hmm. I think is a very human instinct. If you're not a leader, and everyone can't be, of course, but people gravitate towards leadership.
Yeah.
Right? It's not that you have all the answers. It's that you're going to be brave enough to try.
Yeah.
And when we find the right leader, the rest works out usually.
Well, go ahead.
You mentioned the report card before, of the school's report card. So are you, all the charter schools that are in South Carolina, essentially, not just the ones that you operate, but they're contributing to the overall score for the state? Is that so? That's correct.
Because they're all technically public schools.
Yeah, so they're all technically public schools.
That's right.
So I want to get your thoughts on Mississippi. They were recently, in the late high 40s in terms of their ranking, and now they're like 16 across the nation, and they've really put emphasis on education and changed a lot of things around their state to elevate it.
Yep.
One of the things I think was they were forcing reading standards. So if you are in 5th grade but you don't read at a 5th grade level, you have to stay in 5th grade.
Yep.
And it forced kids to be like, okay, I better start learning how to read in order to move on. What do you see the strategy for South Carolina elevating their numbers?
Great question.
Because I get a lot of feedback because I got relatives in California where I'm trying to pull them here, and they're like, oh, well, the education is so much better. I'm just like, well, is it really? But, when they do the rankings, we're not super high yet.
Yeah. It's a great question. I think we could have an entire podcast just on that one question. Again, as a history teacher, I always go back to history. South Carolina, almost as any state in the country, still has economic, physical, and emotional scars from the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Deeply.
100%.
Deeply. And, as someone who grew up here, and my mom's from Georgia, my dad's from Tennessee, so all in the deep South, it is a very, very fresh wound. And think about it, it's been 160 years, exactly 160 years this year. And for so many people, it is still incredibly fresh. And so from the Civil War, you see pockets of, again, poverty. You see pockets, as they call it, the Black Belt, which really is all across the South, where post-Civil War, the migration of newly freed slaves and where they settled in those areas. You can see it all the way from South Carolina all the way to Alabama, Mississippi, and so forth. I think our biggest challenge is what I refer to as the poverty pimps. And I get that same look when I say that to most people.
I love it.
I'm tracking.
I love a good term. I love a term.
A poverty pimp, for those folks that may not know what that means, is someone who currently benefits from the system as is currently standing. And that can be the local mayor. It could be, sadly, a pastor, local pastor. It can be a local judge. It can be the head of the local school board. Anyone in power, right, at any community across South Carolina that doesn't want things to change. Because by all standards, they're doing great, right? They're living in the beautiful antebellum home and in these rural areas across South Carolina. They're driving the nice cars. They're doing really well compared to most people. And so their desire to see change is basically nil, right? And so when we go into these rural communities, and I won't name this county by name because I don't want anyone to get upset here, but I remember several years ago, this has been many years ago, we were in front of a city council because we were trying to get a piece of property annexed so that we could help to open a school in that area. And we got one no vote, and it was from one of the members of city council. Come to find out, his wife was on the board of the local private school. And that wasn't really hard to find, right? And obviously it still passed and the project continued and that school is operational now. But that is a poverty pimp. That is someone that is terrified of change. And I'm doing well, and I'm okay if you continue to struggle because I want to continue to do well.
Because we just don't want to change anything to affect my
Correct.
man.
Correct.
And I'm gonna tell you, growing up in Fairfield County, I have those 3 or 4 people in my head who were exactly in that spot.
That's right.
To say, like, I know the rest of y'all are struggling, but I'm doing pretty well, so I don't want to rock the boat.
And let me help you, but I'm not really gonna.
Yeah.
help you.
Let me say I'm helping you. Let me look like it's helping you, but I'm not gonna actually help you.
Yep.
And man, that's a big one. Wow. I never really thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. And in
So-
every one of these little towns, you have the big mansions.
So popping the poverty pimp, that's the key to elevating the education
or sidestepping it in some way.
Sidestepping.
Yeah,
Right.
I think it's the first step. I think that sometimes you have to either sidestep or you have to find a way around that person or group of people. But I think once people in that community get a taste of success, right, of what else is out there, a lot of times these areas too is we are met with a lot of skepticism, right? And I think that's probably fair
Right.
to a large degree. We have to prove ourselves that we are going to deliver a great school, that you can have a really high performing school in the big town of Gaffney. And it will give me immense pride, I hope in the next year or two, that Libertas Academy Colleton is the highest performing school in Colleton County. But once we achieve that, that's not good enough. We want to be the best school in the Lowcountry, But again, I think sidestepping those power brokers, giving people a glimpse of what else is out there in the world, a glimpse of excellence, a glimpse of something they can be proud of, then I think it starts to physically and symbolically rewire their brain.
Yeah.
And if we can change those kids, then when they're parents, it changes generations, right? And, South Carolina, by almost every study you look at now, we're always top 5 or have been for numerous years in growth per capita, right? We're one of the fastest growing states in the whole country. I saw we just surpassed Texas and even Florida in annual growth.
They're full.
And-
that's why.
Yeah, yeah.
We're
Well, I
getting
was
the
going to say
overflow.
we got
That's
farther.
right.
We have
They're-
farther to go.
they're
That's
full.
right.
They're
It's easier to grow when you have farther.
Yeah.
to
You
go.
get down there and you're like, oh, I'm coming up. Let's go a little bit back.
Yeah. But I think the number I saw recently is at our current growth, it'll take between 25 and 30 years. So roughly 2050, 2055. South Carolina will double from 5 million to 10.
Wow.
And so I think we are at, again, circling back here to our earlier conversation, we're at a reflection point. And the inflection point is if we're going to recruit folks like your family that lives in California, or the family that lives, maybe in Chicago or wherever, and they're looking to relocate to South Carolina. Of course, if you're a parent, you're going to look at schools, right?
Yeah. Education's
one
a
of the first
massive
things you'll
part of
think
it.
of, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really powerful thing that we can be a small part of that. Of course, it takes a lot more than just us. But we take a lot of pride in what we do. And every time we go in these communities, our top goal is to be the top performing school in the county, period. We want to be the best. And again, it takes the leaders that we recruit. They're the real rock stars. We have some incredible people. One person, Selena Patton. She's our school director at Libertas Boiling Springs. She's helping to open our school in Woodruff that opens next year. She's an innovator. She's a dreamer. And we need folks like that. We have a school leader in Gaffney, Brad Teague. He's an innovator. He's a dreamer. That's what it takes. Destiny Grant is our school director down in Colleton. She's also a dreamer.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be possible without those folks. We want to put our schools in position to be successful.
Yeah.
But they have to choose to be successful, just like we do.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, we've done a good bit of work in Fairfield County with United Way, and J.R. Green, as the superintendent in Fairfield County, has done some amazing things to innovate in that school district. And, they're the first ones that I ever saw build a teacher village where they have houses for teachers to live in so they don't have to make that hour-long commute to teach in Fairfield County.
That's right.
I think the leadership is a giant piece of
It is.
of what makes it. So you're from Beach Island, so I guess you went to Silver Bluff High School. So my wife graduated from Silver Bluff High School as well.
I did not know that.
92.
Okay.
So before your time.
I was
but
2002, so just a decade.
Just
But,
a decade before your
I
time.
did not know that.
She's from
That's
Jackson.
Good to know. Okay.
So I
went
never
to
would
Jackson Middle School. So,
I never would have heard of Jackson if I hadn't met her. But
It's
anyway.
close to the bomb plant.
Yeah, that's right. The bomb
SRS,
plant. That's right.
So-
Yep. That's what people call it down there.
Uh-huh.
So if your granddaddy probably worked at the bomb plant.
He
That's
probably
probably,
Yeah, very likely.
Yep. And Jackson sprung up as a gas station,
Yeah.
right before you get to SRS.
Yeah.
You had to have a gas station so you could fill up on the way home. So I guess USC brought you to Columbia. What keeps you in Columbia, considering you don't have any schools in Columbia at this point? What keeps you in Columbia?
Well, we will. We're opening a school most likely in 2 years. Fall of 27 is our goal. And it will be, we don't know the exact location yet, but it will be in an area that does not have high performing schools, an area that is generally going to be lower on the income spectrum. And it's going to be in a place that no one has ever put a charter school before. I can tell you that. So it's going to be a really fun project. What keeps me in Columbia, Columbia's changed a lot since 2002 when I first came here. I remember coming here, and Columbia was a big city to me. I quite literally remember seeing a parking meter and not knowing what it was.
Wow.
That's no exaggeration. And
it's free parking in all of Aiken County. You don't go anywhere in Aiken County where you have to.
There are no parking meters.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends that, after college moved off and live all across the country. For me, Columbia was a place that, again, it changed my life. It's where I met my wife. We got married on the Horseshoe at USC. We have deep roots here. To me, Columbia, which is not perfect, as no city is, but Columbia has always had the good mix of it feels small and local and approachable, but it's big enough, that you have some bigger city benefits, to it. But Columbia has grown and improved in a lot of ways. And I love this place. It is a special place that it'd be really hard for me to leave. And especially, again, having two kids here that are really active in the community and try to do things to help the Midlands and help Columbia. It's a special place. And again, nowhere's perfect, but the more I travel, the more I appreciate Columbia.
Yeah.
It's a great place.
What's interesting is we have people on, and I ask the Columbia question a lot because I think it's interesting. Brian and I choose to do business here. We had Oddity Bustles, who is a city council person, on, and she was talking, she was obviously pro Columbia since she's on city council, but she got a lot of comments on Instagram about, what are you talking about? This is not a good place to do business. This is not a good place to live. And I find it so fascinating that the people that have a positive mindset about it, they come on and talk about the inclusivity. They talk about the opportunity. They talk about, how it feels like home. Those are the people who are successful here.
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating that mindset really makes a big difference.
Yeah. I think a lot of times, the victimhood is an epidemic in America right now. Really, I think across the world. Anytime something bad happens to somebody, they want to retreat and they want to feel bad for themselves to be in that situation. Again, I think if you travel more, to me, one of the greatest things we can ever do is travel. The old saying is that if you don't travel, you're living the life. And if life is a book, you're reading one chapter, right? The more you travel, and it can be internationally, it can be here in America, it can be locally, it changes your perspective. And so if you don't appreciate Columbia, come take a ride with me sometime across the state.
Because he knows every county.
I've been to all 46 and go to quite a few on a regular basis. And so you will appreciate the three rivers. You'll appreciate the access that we have a great local airport. You'll appreciate the fact that we have some incredible local sports. We don't always win as much as we want to in our Gamecock sports, but we are competitive as much as we possibly can be. But there's a lot to love. And, again, if Columbia was not growing and I think heading that right direction for the past 20 years that we've been out of college, we wouldn't still be here, honestly. But it does have good energy, and it is doing some great things. And as long as it's doing that, we'll still be here.
Well, and that's what we found. I mean, it's obviously we wouldn't be doing it here if it didn't work.
Yeah.
I remember one of the things that I did to kind of ground my children in their privilege is to take them to Winsboro and give them a little tour.
Yeah.
Just like this is where I went to elementary school.
Yeah.
Now, I had 3 elementary schools. So I went to Gordon Elementary, I went to Everett Elementary, and I went to Mount Zion Elementary. They were all two years. So you do, first, second, third grade at Gordon, and you do 4th and 5th grade at Everett, and then 6th and 7th at Mount Zion,
Yep.
and then a junior high school, and then a high school. So I went to 5 schools, over the course of time. They were all terrible. Now the high school was great because it was brand new. So I don't know, we were the first class to go all the way through Fairfield Central High School, as it was. But, once my kids start to complain about their school or about the scenario that they're in, I just take them to Winsboro and say,
Yeah.
take a look around. This is where I grew up. Right.
And that stuff matters.
Yeah.
It's the little thing. I think as a parent, we have to be very, very intentional with everything.
Yeah.
It's a huge responsibility, to raise a kid, obviously. And one thing I never let my kids say, and it may sound silly to some people, but they are not allowed to say I'm starving.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are folks across the world that quite literally are starving.
They're really starving.
And it's a small thing. It's a pet peeve of mine. I'm sorry I'm getting emotional, but it's really important to me. And so when they're hungry, they can say I'm hungry.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. Say it. But we draw a line, because again, going across South Carolina, there are folks that truly do struggle.
Yeah.
And there are folks that want more. They don't know how to get there. Like they don't know what more is. They don't know, and they're willing to work hard. They're not asking for anything. They want just the opportunity, and
And so
I think
many
it's a
times
powerful thing.
it's a lack of examples and a lack of encouragement from people
Yeah.
that they can
It is.
do whatever they want.
It's the small town mentality, and you can call it. I've heard it called the cornfield or cottonfield mentality, whatever. But when you don't have that life perspective, again, you don't know how to dream. You don't know what that really looks like.
Sure.
One of my favorite quotes, and I tell my boys this often, and I usually, speaking of baseball earlier, I tell them this when we get out of the car and they're going to walk to play a game. And at this point, they kind of roll their eyes. They will not forget it, I know, as they get older. But I look at them and I say, how big would you dream if you knew you couldn't fail?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I make them repeat that back to me.
Sure.
And that one little quote, it takes the pressure off. And they get out there, they play loose, they have fun. And it's not about, executing or not making a mistake. It's about just go out, go have fun.
Now, how old are they?
10 and 8.
Wow.
10 and 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, that's what I think so many folks across our state, they don't hear that.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even comprehend that's a concept. It's they don't know. It's not about dreaming big or dreaming small. They're just trying to survive. They're just trying to survive every single day. And so, again, the core of it goes back to education. It's about, if we can create great schools, it will force the schools around us to get better.
Yeah.
Because kids are choosing to leave their school and come to ours. Now, look, it does create some sort of chaos. Let's call it what it is. It does create chaos because you are having teachers that are moving from school to school and kids are moving and so forth. But progress doesn't come without discomfort.
Yeah.
And I think that we are intentionally challenging the status quo. We're intentionally going to these communities and saying, hey, look, we're not here to throw stones. We're here to create a great school, a great culture, be laser focused on academics. And we're going to beat you. We're going to beat you.
I love your competitive spirit.
And when we do, you either have to wallow in that, or you can get off the mat and you can work harder.
Yeah.
And again, going back to our schools in Gaffney, every school around them has gotten better the past 6 years, every single one. And so I think that if South Carolina wants to go to that next level, right, and not be ranked 45 through 50 in almost every category, we have to be willing to speak out and to challenge the status quo. And we can agree or disagree on a number of issues, right? And that's okay. As long as we can get back to a place where we can disagree with folks and not question their character.
Sure.
Right? To not question their intentions. And I think that, in a nutshell, is South Carolina's challenge. It's not thinking of the cotton field, the cornfield mentality. It is thinking about, we're in 2025. This isn't 1965 or 1865.
And we're not preparing kids to work in a factory.
That's right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because they've got to be thinking on their feet.
In some cases, we should be preparing them.
Maybe factory work would be okay.
Because we got lots of factories, industry coming to South Carolina.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and I was going to say, the thing that I recognize about my son, who's a little bit older, he'll be 22 this month, is the modeling is really important, right? They become who you model. Not necessarily, they don't necessarily do what you tell them to do. Yep. They don't really even listen to what you tell them to do, but they tend to model, and his and my relationship right now is basically him running his business, and he's asking me questions about him running his business, right? Yeah. He had an employee lose something of a client's today, and he called me. It's like, well, what do? I was like, I don't know. You got to make it right. I was like, if your employee lost it, you lost it. Doesn't matter what they did, right? Right. That's the relationship he and I have right now. It's like, Dad, I got this problem with my car, or Dad, I've got, what is this tax, or whatever it is, But it's modeling so much of anything, and I think if kids don't have someone to model, model that those aspirations, and model that idea that if you want to be, you want to work for the UN or you want to be a senator, you can do anything, right? Yeah. And I think that stuff is critical.
A core part of our program too is, beyond our math curriculum, which is Eureka Math, which is by far the best in the country, and also core knowledge, which is our English and language arts curriculum. We have a program called Core Virtues. And so essentially it's a character education program. And every month we have a core virtue of the month. Now, a lot of schools do something like this, but generally it's one time, it's 10 minutes, and you basically learn how to define a word, and that's about it. And so for us, it is a 20-minute lesson every day, same word for an entire month. And you truly learn what that word means, how to apply it in my life, and then you have to model it, right? So this, month can be, the word can be compassion, right? So you start with the basics of what that means. And then how do I apply it to my real life? And then write me an example of a time that you showed compassion. And it's a powerful thing because, again, as you mentioned, a lot of these kids don't always have that, right? And if we're going to educate the whole child, it is not just, can you do calculus? Can you pass English 3, English 4? We have to raise good humans, right? And to not ignore the emotional IQ, the social IQ, the social skills. Kids are going to be working in 2030, 2040. Who knows where we'll be, at that point. But it will require soft skills always. Sure. And it will require the human touch. And I think that's a big part of what we do as well.
And man, I'll tell you, as an employer, so many of the defining points with employees comes down to that EQ, that emotional quotient, not skills. Yep. I can teach skills. I can't teach you to be mature. I can't teach you to handle things well. I can teach you customer service, but what I have to end up doing is I have to end up making you do things the way I want them done, even if you disagree. And I think if you can teach that early, that makes a huge difference in somebody's
Massively, yeah.
marketability and interest in the marketplace and all that kind of stuff. So that's really awesome. Well, John, thank you for this. This is so fun. You and I have talked probably for many years in very small snippets. And so we'll go, here's a job, go do the job. And, the job's done. Thank you very much. But like, this is really cool to sit down and talk.
Yeah.
So, okay. We end up every podcast with 5 questions of things that are your
5
favorites. I'm going to have Brian, since you're technically Brian's guest, I'm going to have Brian lead it off. So,
Okay.
All right. Favorite movie?
By category or just overall?
yeah, whatever. Yeah. You can do category if you want.
I'm a big movie guy. Braveheart.
Nice.
That's a good one. Yeah. I saw that once when it came out, and it was enough. I was like, I got it. This is a tough one to watch. So I've watched that freedom scene because that's what Dave Ramsey used when people come in to yell that they're debt free. But other than that, I remember loving it. But like, it was a tough one for me to watch. So that's great.
Favorite music group or genre?
Ooh, also love music. I was a big music guy in high school. I was actually, not to brag, guys, but I was in the 1999 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City.
All right.
I was the drum major for my high school band.
Very good.
To show you the time span that was in, we were behind Austin Powers, and we were in front of Christina Aguilera.
Whoa.
So there you go. Very late 90s, right?
That's a hot 2 things right there.
It was.
Yeah.
Man, I can listen to quite literally back to back MGK, Mozart, Dr. Dre, Garth Brooks. I mean,
Sure.
it doesn't matter. I just love music. I love good music. It makes me especially proud, especially my youngest son is a music guy.
Nice.
He can memorize songs. He's playing instruments. It's really, really great. Probably not the best answer to your question, but I would say all the above. If I had to listen to one thing, I guess it would definitely be Enya.
Whoa.
If
Okay.
you don't know who Enya is,
Man.
you need to stop
All right.
what you're doing and go pull up Enya.
I used to listen to Enya to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I started doing wedding videography in 2005, so I used Enya a lot. Like
He's
way
amazing.
too much, because it always worked.
Yep.
Right? It always worked. So that's awesome.
Favorite book?
Other than the book that's sitting beside you that we haven't talked about.
Yeah. I have a quote I want to share as we wrap up.
Yeah.
It's hard to say one. I would say that the best book I've read this year is Unreasonable Hospitality.
Okay. That needs to be on my list. I've heard
Yes.
that 2 or 3 times.
Yes.
I'm reading it through Elaine.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yes. That's
It's
good.
incredible.
Yeah.
It essentially is a story of a lesson in Madison Park, which became the top rated restaurant in the entire world.
Right.
It talks about just their growth and the culture they set. There's so many things that vibe with what we do at Tutelage. And I loved it. I think I highlighted 3/4 of the book. It was incredible.
Cool. Well, since we're talking about quotes, what quote do you want to talk about from Matthew McConaughey?
So no plug for Matthew McConaughey. He doesn't need plugs, but has a great, fairly new book called Poems and Prayers. And, again, raising 2 boys, I think especially in the world we live in these days, that is hyper partisan. Tribalism is such a challenging thing in our nation right now, and trying to raise boys that can see a situation, think about it, form their own opinion, even if it's different than mine, that's okay. And to be able to defend what they believe in, but also have compassion for other people that think differently. is hard. It
tough.
really is hard
Yep.
to do that. But what I want more than anything in my life is to raise good men. So this is a very short quote, but it goes like this. It says, "There's a big difference between a good man and a nice guy. A good man stands for certain ideals. And when those ideals are contested, a good man is not a nice guy."
Wow.
And
Did he attribute that to something, or is that his idea?
that's him.
Good gracious.
That's him. You didn't know McConaughey was a poet, did you?
He's a genius.
Well, I did read Greenlight, so
Did you?
Green
Okay.
Light is another good one.
I had
Okay.
a,
Very good one.
he's
Yeah.
he's definitely deeper than he looks.
I need
He
to do
is.
some more biographies.
is.
I think that's great. I've always been a huge fan.
Total Recall is good, but really long.
Yeah.
But, you know, a nice guy is great to have a beer with, right?
Yeah.
He's fun to hang out with, talk, whatever. And that's fine. That's fine. But being a good man is deeper than that,
Yeah.
right? It's living with a sense of ideals, of purpose. And it's incredibly challenging in 2025 to raise good men. And the work I do is very near and dear to me, obviously. It comes from a place of personal experience and passion. But that's secondary. Raising two good men is my top priority. And I hope one day when I'm old and gray, if those two kids live by those ideals, then it'll be success for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. All right, two more. Favorite sitcom.
Oof, these are tough.
Yeah.
The hard-hitting
see,
questions come at the end.
I think about them all the time. So I'm constantly ranking my sitcoms in my head. So
All right, I'll give you my favorite from my childhood and then my favorite today.
okay.
perfect.
All right, childhood, Party of Five.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know that I ever watched that one much. I watched probably enough episodes to get it, but I don't think I ever watched
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
All right, what's the current one?
Solid cast. If you go back and
Yeah,
Did you go back to back and watch Dawson's Creek before or after whichever one it was on?
You know, I was not a big Dawson Creek guy.
Yeah,
that's
no,
good.
no, but Party of Five was great. And man, today, I don't watch honestly much TV as I used to.
Yeah.
Just with work and how much we're growing and kids. I might watch snippets here and there. I'm not a big fan of the mindless TV either, so it's not my thing. I guess we can't say The Office or Friends is new because
Sure, you
that's 20
can.
years old now.
Sure,
so.
those aren't current, but yeah, that's you can say that.
Favorite's favorite.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I just recently moved The Office above Seinfeld.
Okay.
For me.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of great 30-minute shows going on right now. They're not necessarily sitcoms in the traditional sense, but there's a lot of those 30-minute shows that would have been sitcoms in the 90s or 2000s. It's going on, on HBO and Netflix and those things that makes it. And I'm a huge fan of mindless TV, so it's interesting that we can have. Brian and I talk about this all the time. Like 9:30 on is my TV time.
Yeah.
So I don't go to bed until probably midnight sometimes. So I watch a lot of TV. So
And I don't.
like more than I should. But when I was in high school, TV was the devil. Like the way that we treat social media right now, my parents treated TV that way. Like TV's rotting your brain, TV's ruining this generation, TV's influencing the way kids are behaving, all that stuff. And now obviously social media is a lot worse probably for the kids than TV was in the 80s and 90s. But
Well, I saw a interesting video recently. There was some expert talking about screen. They were talking about screen time, and the guy was like, "Oh well, I'm very vigilant about preventing my kids from screen time." And the guy was like, "Whoa, not all screen time is bad.
right.
What it tends to be bad is the mindless stuff,
Uncontrolled screen time.
but if they are engaging in screen time that has a story, so if they're watching a movie, that shouldn't count against them, is what this guy was saying, because the story stimulates their brain and is having them put stuff together.
Well, I would say 80% of the TV I watched when I was a kid, I watched with my parents.
Oh,
So
sure.
I had very
because there's
little.
only one TV in the house.
Well, only one
and
TV
4
in the
channels.
house. There's not very many channels. I would watch TBS Superstation when I got home from school. I'd watch, Tom and Jerry and stuff like that when I got home from school. But other than that, almost every bit of TV, I watched Miami Vice with my dad. I watched Fantasy Island with my dad. That is not what happens now, I don't think.
No.
I think there's a lot of the iPad in your room by yourself, which is where the trouble could happen. Yeah.
All right, final question. Favorite dessert?
Ooh. Soft serve ice cream, just plain vanilla.
Okay. Nice.
Okay, nice.
Yep.
On a cake cone, so like the regular old cone
Yeah,
that you
any
get out of
cone's
the...
fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, waffle cone, traditional cone. Yeah, I just love a good soft serve.
Totally.
My kids know that, usually it's once a week, usually on the weekends, we get soft serve.
Okay.
And again, it's about balance, right? We can't have soft serve every day.
Right.
But so I guess we could, but might impact our waistline.
I want to install one in my house.
Not a great idea. Yeah.
There's actually, I saw one of those recently with all these catalogs that are coming out for Christmas.
Yeah.
And the boys were like, "Do you want this, Dad?" I'm like, "No, absolutely not. I don't need that in my house. 'Cause
That's
I'll
too
eat that
dangerous.
every day."
Be a lot of temptation to
I
get
just
soft
love a good
soft
serve, man. It's
Well,
hard to beat.
I used to be at SoCo downtown, which was above where Jason's Deli was. So our office was above Jason's Deli, and Jason's Deli in the very back had a soft serve machine.
Oh, yeah.
And somewhere
Yeah,
along the
free
way,
ice cream when you ordered.
somewhere along the way, I think Greg might have talked to him or somebody talked to him, and it got around SoCo that if we wanted soft serve ice cream, we just go down there and go in the back door and get it and come back up. We don't have to tell anybody or work on it, So I had way too much soft serve ice cream while I worked at SoCo right there because it was always available. So if you needed a break in the afternoon, go get you a cone, And so, well, John, thank you so much for doing this. This was so fun. It's great to talk to you. And best of luck with everything. I'm so excited about your competition with the counties, and I can't wait to see what happens with it.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me, and can I leave you with one more quote?
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
I love a good quote. We talked a lot about just the history of South Carolina and the mindset, and I think our challenge is, and I think I'm of the generation now, I'm 41, where we have the ability to retrain a lot of mindsets across South Carolina, to be in leadership positions and to use the platform that we do have to, again, challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
We're gonna call out and challenge the poverty pimps, and we're going to expect nothing but the best from South Carolina.
Right.
And so, again, a lot of South Carolinians, and this can be historical family trauma, right? But we have this victim mentality a lot of times, and it doesn't allow us to think big. And so one of my favorite quotes is, "What punishments of God are not also gifts?" And that is actually a quote by Tolkien.
Okay.
But by calling punishments gifts, we're not denying the pain. Like we're not denying the hardship that is there. But it's an opportunity for growth, for self-reflection, for humility. And that's why I enjoy what I do. It's just going around South Carolina, and navigating some very, very challenging waters. Folks that don't want change, don't know what change means, are uncomfortable with the concept of anything coming that's not known. And we're not perfect. We don't do everything perfectly and right, but we try very hard to. And it's such a pleasure to go across the state and open these really great schools. And again, we'll have 9 more, 14 total in the next 3, 4, 5 years. And we will have a school here in Columbia, in Richland County, in the next couple of years. And so I love to come back if that's okay. And
absolutely.
Tell you guys more about that school that will be local. And it will be a school that I will be proud of and I'd be willing to send my own kids to. And I think that is the large endorsement I can possibly give any school.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thanks so much for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.